Assignment 2 for EDC1200 Multimedia Presentation YouTube Clip. How might education mediate difference and dominance? The image you are viewing is an advertisement that the federal government has released in print media to promote Australia Day 2010. As Australians, we are encouraged to celebrate what's great. Get involved this Australia Day. However you celebrate, do yourself proud. Your country needs you to barbecue like you've never barbecued before this Australia Day. Initially I was enjoying the imagery in the poster, the barbecue, the park, the tongs in the sky, the military stylising and the posture of the whole. They are all fit and healthy looking individuals, a cross-section of Australians seeking to celebrate what's great about Australia on Australia Day. But is this truly a representation of a group of Australians? These individuals are ready to barbecue proudly for their country, but is this what confronts me when I take my kids to the park? Our parks and beachfronts are highly diverse places, with many activities available, and as such are frequented by a host of diverse peoples, unlike the park in this image put forward by our government. While it may be aiming to be reminiscent of a 1940s propaganda poster, we are a long way as a nation from the 1940s. Our communities now include people from all parts of the globe, from many religious backgrounds and from different cultural perspectives, none of which seem to be depicted in this poster. This poster promotes January 26th as the day we officially celebrate Australia Day. But what is Australia Day all about? What are its origins? Why is this particular date the day we celebrate our National Day? Let's explore Australia Day and its origins and what it has come to mean in recent times. Is this advertisement suitable for all Australians, or does it exclude portions of the population? After all, we are a multicultural society. Has this image alienated migrants or Indigenous Australians, for example? Does the celebration of Australia Day ostracise portions of our community? Does Australia Day allow us to collectively identify as a group of Australian citizens, or does it create an increasing zone of difference between different groups in our community? In using this advertisement as a platform from which to explore difference within the Australian community, I would begin by displaying the image and requesting the target group I've selected of 11 and 12-year-olds to view the image. While they're looking at the image, I would perhaps pose a few leading questions, hoping to guide them along the path I want them to take. That is, to explore Australia Day and its celebrations, and to get them thinking about all the different types of people who are also Australian, who do not necessarily look the same as they do the same types of things that they do. People who are Australian, but not like them. I would prod them by asking them to think about the answers to the following questions, to be discussed after they have had a chance to really look at the image. Depending on the makeup of the group, hopefully they would be a diverse-looking bunch. When is Australia Day? Why do we celebrate Australia Day on that date? Can you see yourself at this barbecue? Your classmates or your neighbours? Following on, we would explore the answers they have given. I would encourage them to think about the celebration from a collective point of view. Does every Australian celebrate Australia Day? Why would some people choose not to celebrate? We would discuss the answer to the previous questions posed, that Australia Day is celebrated to mark the anniversary of the arrival of the First Fleet. Could they see themselves at the barbecue? Yes, no, and discuss why. And that Australia Day is celebrated on January the 26th. Extend the discussion then by asking how the community celebrates Australia Day, and then go on to ask further questions. Have they heard any discussion, whether it be in the newspaper, the television media, from their family or in the community about Australia Day? Are they aware of any debates surrounding the celebration of Australia Day on January the 26th? This is where I'd like them to continue to find out some more information for themselves, perhaps using the internet. Give them some research to do with regard to the January 26th holiday. What can they find out about it? Can they find any discussion about the holiday, and what differing points of view can they identify with regard to the date of Australia Day? Get them thinking about looking at Australia Day from another location point. Australia Day is January the 26th. It coincides with the arrival of the First Fleet in Australia. Is this a good day to celebrate Australia Day? Give give some reasons why it is or it isn't. Make a list, perhaps, of any famous Australians who have publicly voiced their opinion on the issue, and what influence do you think have made them take the position they have? Is it possible to have the whole nation collectively identify with one point of view on this issue? And why? Is the image of the barbecue in the ad an appropriate one for Australia Day? What other things could they suggest we could do to celebrate Australia Day? Perhaps we could get them to design an ad for Australia Day for the federal government to use in print media. I would move the group discussion on to further questions that I would like them to find answers to for themselves. This would encourage them to view ideas from a location point that differs from their own along the axis of national identity. Is there a typical Australian? What do you think someone who is about to immigrate to Australia would give as an answer to that question? Is there a typical Aussie? Do you think that image would change after they have lived here for some time? And why might they have a different image than you do? Tell us about one person you know who would have a different image of a typical Australian than you do. Someone in the community, the family, a neighbour, anyone that they think about who has a different view of an Australian. In conclusion, we would reflect on the topic and any new ideas that had come to light during our discussion and research. I would try to emphasise the following points: that Australia is a multicultural and diverse country with many different types of people living in its communities. Consequently, we have a rich and diverse group of people who call themselves Australians. Each of them has a differing experience of what it means to be an Australian, depending on their own life experience and cultural background. Each different experience of Australianness is valid experience. There can be no singular experience that can claim to be the only Australian experience. The national identity is a developing one in this country. As a community, we have a wealth of experience, cultures and religious backgrounds to draw upon to form our own rich life experience. I would hope that the target group would gain an insight into other types of Australians that do not match their own phenotype, cultural background and experience of this country, to get them to think for themselves about Australia Day and its celebration, and to expose them to the fact that it is not just a public holiday, to understand that there is a great diversity in our communities, that their own experience of Australianness is not the singular experience of everyone, that it is okay to discuss this type of issue in an intelligent manner with sound reasoning, and to actively listen to other people's views and consider their positions and locations. After thinking about the advertisement and also exploring the Australia Day holiday and the fact that it is a sensitive issue and its origins, my goal would be for the target group to understand that there is a discussion in our communities, to be aware of differing views on this topic, no matter where they may locate themselves. Another aim would be for them to be able to articulate reasons for their own position with regard to the debate currently going on in the community, to have explored how they themselves feel and perhaps indicate why they feel that way. A further objective would be for them to communicate the ideas and the reasonings of a different point of view, to know that they have actively listened and considered another's perspective or location, to have them realise that there are different locations from which this topic can be viewed, and that their own point of view, while valid, is only one of many. Asking the students if they can see themselves, their classmates or neighbours at the barbecue depicted on the government's advertisement is designed to get them to think about differences between them, their classmates and neighbours, to consider how an Indigenous person may feel about Australia Day, or how a migrant may celebrate differently, to encourage them to think about how they themselves spend the day. Do they even think about it as Australia Day on the day, or is it just a public holiday? Thoughts about different people and how they might spend Australia Day encourages students to view Australia Day from other locations of identity, allowing them to see another person as different, but to also explore why that person may be different, that the difference is from life experience and does not make them deficient in any way. Considering another's point of view is the first step in allowing for differences between peoples. Being able to actively see another's point of view doesn't necessarily mean agreeing with it, but it can allow for a small amount of understanding of another person's position, location, or stance, a definite beginning in reducing discrimination.